James 4 verse 8 says it. Draw near to God, and he will draw near to you. And that's the whole point of this series. What we're thinking is that these 10 commandments, in a way, are 10 invitations of God saying, hey, draw near to me. Draw near to me. Draw near to me in the plan that I have for your life, and I will draw near to you. So today we are on the 8th commandment. Exodus 20 verse 15, it says this, no stealing. God has a lot to say about the attitude we have and the use that we make of our resources, of our finances. One of the best summaries that I could think of in the whole Bible that kind of summarizes God's plan for our finances is Proverbs 10, verse 2. It says this, ill-gotten gain. Ill-gotten gain brings no lasting happiness. Right living does. If I live my whole life looking to gain a life worth living, and I do it by taking from other people, I'll find that deep down inside of me, I lose what I most wanted to gain. That sense of contentment, that sense of joy, that sense of gratitude, that sense of hope, I'll lose it. Ill-gotten gain brings no lasting happiness. So what's God's plan? God's plan is, instead of ill-gotten gain, right living. I think there's 4 things that we can do when it comes to trusting God in the area of resources and finances. Here's the first, pretty obvious, work hard. The Bible talks all throughout it about the importance of taking a rest from time to time, but it also talks about earning it. Work hard. Second, save and invest. Save and invest. The Bible talks about margin. In other words, don't spend to the limit of what you make, but put a little bit aside and invest it. Now, I realize it's not a quick hit. It takes a little bit more patience, but here's what God's saying is if you make every day your masterpiece and stack a masterpiece on 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 a masterpiece, something beautiful is going to happen. Just be patient. The third step towards right living when it comes to resources and finances is pray. Pray. Jesus said it this way, don't bargain with God. Be direct. Now listen to that. God cares about you. God cares about every part of you. So if there's something that you think to yourself, man, that's really dumb that I want that, tell God. Tell him what you want. He already knows. Just be direct. He's your dad. Talk to him. God wants to bless you, not the you that you're pretending to be. I want to say something that's going to blow your mind. Every time you pray a sincere prayer, God will answer with a miracle. Sometimes he will change your circumstances. And those are the moments that we say, it's a miracle. Sometimes he'll change your circumstance and we'll all know it's a miracle. And you know what he'll do the other times? He'll begin to change you. And that, my friend, is a miracle. And number 4, generosity. Proverbs 11, the world of the generous gets larger and larger. The world of the stingy gets smaller and smaller. Psalm 15. And my dad says, hey, come with me, we're going to go buy a horse trailer. So we looked at a few places, and then we went to a ranch. See, the rancher had died, and his widow was selling off all his horse stuff. And my dad looked at the horse trailer, and even I could tell it was the nicest one yet. And he said, I'll take it. And this widow woman looks at him, and she says, I have no idea what a horse trailer is worth. Would you give me blank for it? And as soon as she said it, I knew she was asking way, way, way less than what that trailer was worth. And in that moment, as a 15-year-old kid, I had 2 thoughts simultaneously. First thought, I felt kind of sorry for her. Her husband had died, and here she's trying to sell his stuff. She doesn't even know what it's worth. My second thought at 15 years old was, yes, this is amazing. We're about to get a good deal. And I stood behind my dad. He took out his checkbook, and the amount wasn't what she asked for. The amount was probably a little bit more than that trailer was actually worth. And I remember as we walked away that day, I remember being proud that that was my dad. And I remember thinking to myself, that's who I'd like to be. I got a question for you. Why when you became a Christian, did God not bonk you on the head and drag you to heaven? What are you doing here? Why are you still here? Why do you exist on this planet? See, here's the thing. You're here for her. If you're not here for people like that, what in the world are you doing here? If we're not here for the widows and the orphans and the helpless and the hurting, what are we doing? A few years ago, I went to Las Vegas with a basketball team, all these 16, 17, 18-year-old kids. And we're driving back at the end of the night on our way back to our resort on Las Vegas Boulevard. And the light turns red. And if you know anything about Las Vegas Boulevard, when the light turns red, it's a long, long wait. There's a sea of humanity that's always crossing back and forth across the street. And I looked to my left and I saw this lady. She was standing on the median and she was begging for money. At first glance, she seemed real old. But she had an old face and young eyes. Like it's as if a hard life and hard living had aged her before her time. Does that make any sense? And something inside of me told me to give her all the money I had in my wallet. I know. They say it's not a good thing to do, but I felt like I was supposed to in that moment. I don't always do it, but I felt like I was supposed to that time. So I rolled down my window and I had $20 in my wallet. I gave her the $20. And the kid behind me, the basketball player behind me, he rolled down his window and a bunch of his teammates were handing him money and he gave it to her too. And she says to me, "Where are you guys from?" And I looked at the lady with the old face and the young eyes, and I said, "We're from a place that you've never heard of. It's called Chilliwack, British Columbia." She said, "Chilliwack, I've heard of it." Thinking, huh? She says, "I'm from Abbotsford." And so she started naming a bunch of landmarks and stuff like that from the area, and then she told me the high school that she had gone to. And I looked at this lady with the old face and the young eyes, and she didn't say anything, and I didn't say anything, and then the light turned green, and I didn't go anywhere, and then the car behind me honked, and she said, "God bless you," and I said, "God bless you," and we drove away, and it was 15 minutes to the resort, and not a single guy talked all the way home. I don't know exactly what they were thinking, but I can guess. I guess what they were thinking was, she's from Abbotsford. That could have been my mom. That could have been my sister. That could have been my friend. That could have been me. Hard life and hard living, standing on Las Vegas Boulevard. And I think to myself, if you are a Christ follower here today, what do you think you're doing here? Because if you're not here for her, I have no idea what you'd be here for. If I'm not here for her, I have no idea what I'm doing here. You say, "Well, that's a really extreme example, Mike. Are you kidding me?" And I think of that lady a lot, the lady with the old face and the young eyes, and I think, man, in this city that we live in, there are so many people. And you might not be able to tell on the outside, but they've had a hard life, and they've had hard living, and there's pain, and there's brokenness, and there's disaster, and there's tragedy, and there's scars. And I think to myself, Mike Manis, if you're not here for them, what are you here for? Generosity is a privilege. It's amazing, hey? Being a Christian, nowhere in the Bible does it say you got to give. You don't have to give to be saved. You get to. You don't got to. You get to. You get to. You get to. Give, and it'll be given to you. A good measure, poured down, shaken together, and running over, will be poured into your lap. For with the measure you use, it will be measured to you. You don't got to, but you get to. See, it's funny because the opposite of stealing is generosity. Stealing is when you take something that doesn't belong to you from someone else. Generosity is when you take something that belongs to you and you give it to someone else. And here's the counterintuitive craziness. That when you live your life to gain a life worth living by taking from other people, you lose what you most wanted to find. But when you live your life trying to pour out on behalf of other people, you find it.